everybody. I'm going to keep this intro super brief this week because I have a really nice intro to the show today. But we have Brian Santora on. He was my instructor at the USA Hockey Goaltending Bronze course. So he's going to drop a lot of gems today for not just goaltenders, but coaches, parents, players, everyone that plays ice hockey about how to incorporate this position into your practices and the importance of developing this position. Also explain to you why you might want to look into getting that bronze certification, if not more, in the USA Hockey Goaltending course. Also, if your kids have equipment that you need to dry, you know where I'm going with this. Go pick them up a dry stick at hockeywraparound.com. Again, the dry stick is a portable drying rack that attaches right to your stick, where you can take it on tournaments, you can take it on the road, you can put it in a garage, it will save space, and you can hang up all of your gear, including goaltending gear, on the dry stick. So again, go over to hockeywraparound.com, use our discount code OKPH at checkout. You'll get a nice discount. You'll get a dry stick. You can pick up a wraparound if you want while you're there, and you help support the sponsor of the show. But without further ado, let's get you into the show with Brian Santora of Our Kids Play Goalie. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of Our Kids Play Goalie. You know, just over a month ago, before recording this, I had the privilege to be a student once again at the USA Hockey Bronze Goaltending Coach course, and it was an interesting experience for me as I was surrounded by other goalies and goalie coaches, and I was just one of maybe two or three non-goalies in the room. And with that said, I learned a lot about the position and, more importantly, walked away with some tools I could use within my own practices and approach to the game, something we created this show exactly to do. So today, I'm happy to bring you two things from that course. One, for those of you watching, this prestigious bronze level badge that I earned, this bronze level badge, I've showed it to everybody, said I am a goalie coach. I haven't done that. Actually, I'm very shy about saying I'm a goalie coach because there are people far more qualified than me, but I did get the badge. And two, more importantly, I asked my instructor, Brian Santora, to join us for this episode, which he graciously accepted. Brian was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and has been playing goalie since 4 years old. That's something we're going to jump into in just a moment. He became a tier 1 goalie in the area before playing juniors in Surrey, British Columbia, which led to him playing college hockey and minor league hockey. Like most of us listening, when Brian became a parent, his life changed and he turned to the world of coaching. Brian served as the assistant hockey director at the Flyers Training Center and founded the Spartan Goaltending Academy in 2019. It was also in that year he got involved with the USA Hockey programs to coach coaches, parents, players, admin, everything, anything in between. We've got a lot to unpack on this one. Brian, welcome to Our Kids Play Goalie.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, the pleasure's all ours. So let's start with this one. I teased it in the open. You started playing goalie at 4, which by today's standards, that wouldn't even happen. Were you told to go in net? Did you volunteer to go in net? How did you end up in the net at 4 years old?
So I never wanted to be a goaltender. My grandfather was a goalie, and I couldn't stand just watching him. When I would go and watch his games, I'm like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never just going to stand there. And my grandfather was an old-fashioned stand-up goalie, you know, leather pads, the face mask, the whole 9 yards. So I started at Rizzo Rink, which is a small 3/4 ice sheet in South Philadelphia. And my first game, I was all set to go out and be this, you know, defenseman that I was going to just throw people around and defend the goalie. And I heard that our goalie wasn't going to show up, and the coach walks over to my grandfather, and it sunk in very quickly that they were going to tell me to go put the house pads on. And I cried the entire game. But most Adam Division games back in those days, the game ended in a 1-0 win for us because it was just a cloud of children chasing a puck around the ice. And I had one shot on net and I made that save and I got my first shutout and I was hooked because it was the coolest feeling in the world because everybody jumped on me after the game and the coaches were yelling. So from that point on, I was just, I was addicted to the position.
Yeah, Brian, I can tell you this. I don't believe I have any memories from that age. So this was like a core memory for you. This started you on a path at 4 years old. It's funny. I shared this, that I remember when my son is obviously a goalie. We've talked about this on the show many times for those of you listening, but it was the same experience. He kind of got a shutout in his first game. And I remember I've joked with Mike. I went, oh no, this is going to be a thing. And I'll tell you what, he has fallen in love with it. He really loves it. He's actually at a goaltending camp as we're recording this. So that's where my life is at. And I was excited to bring you on again, because when I attended the course, there was a real, push towards this isn't just for goalies, right? And that goaltending education is lacking across the board in youth hockey. It's not just the coaches aren't there; it's all coaches need to know more about this. And Mike, this question's kind of almost for you too, Mike. But I want you both to answer. I want to talk about the USA Hockey goaltending courses, why they were created, and I want to hear both your thoughts. Why this education is important for all coaches, not just goalie coaches.
Yeah, I mean, Brian's obviously, right in the thick of it right now, and with this, I think I don't even want to say this new philosophy, but just a invigorating and a reinventing of the goalie educational program, has really come, I think, forefront to everybody, around the world, right? So I think when I started with the bronze and the coaching education program, I mean, we were out in Long Island, and like you had guys like Tony Luizzi and Dave Starman and Mike McMillan, these guys. And one of the things that happened was when you went to the American development model, and we went to these small area games and these, station-based practices, all of a sudden, all these hockey coaches are like, well, what am I supposed to do with my goalies? Like, there's 6 stations out here, and I just got the kid sitting in the net, right? He's just there. And I think that really spurred the need to say, well, this is what a great opportunity we have to specifically work with goaltenders. And since, everybody can't have a goalie coach, most programs, we have to make our coaches goalie coaches and understand the position and understand that, quality over quantity is not the goal here. And I think a lot of that really, came from the American development model. It came from the fact that we were in an environment where we wanted to get a lot of quality reps, and then you needed to teach the people that were working with those athletes, whatever position they were, to make sure that the quality reps had a lot of structural pieces in there that were correct. And I think goaltending, more than any other position, the structural piece is so important. Right. Obviously you want your goaltenders to be who they are, but there's a lot of structural pieces in goaltending that, you don't worry as much about from a forward or, a skater position. But, Brian, I'd just like to hear, more, where that the last couple of years, and especially, I'm sure you went through the most of the online time, right? And the fact that you have to we're teaching goaltending just virtually, right? You don't even have a chance to like grab somebody and be like, hey, this is an angle, that's how we work on our angles, and this is the visualization, and this, like, it's such a, I think it actually helped us fine tune the messaging and make it clearer for people, because you just couldn't put somebody in the net and say, here's 2 pipes, and here's where you have to align yourself with with the rest of the rink.
So I will tell you, I came from the age of just get in the net and get shot at, and you'll get better. And I didn't receive like quality goaltending coaching as like a part of my season until I played in juniors. Until I got to Surrey, I didn't have goalie coaching. It was I was, like I said, my grandfather was a goalie, so I got tips from him, but they were very old school stand up style. When I got the chance, I was brought into the fold by Alex Pastrusek, which is now he's the goalie coach in chief for the Atlantic District, and I saw what they were trying to do, and I was like, I'm in. If I can help in any way to bridge that gap between the head coach or assistant coach and the goalies, so that they're not just, hey, just get in the net. It's not 1,000 reps of the same shots with no instruction. It doesn't help a goalie. Goalies are at an advantage right now because there is so much information online, more so than was ever available before, for these kids to learn. But we want to try and distill that down so that the coaches can tailor their practices to benefit the goalies. And yes, the ADM absolutely revolutionized the way that we're doing practices now in hockey. And we took that and we wanted to add almost like a sublet or a subset practice inside of the regular practice, where we teach the coaches, hey, listen, you can design a drill however you want to design it, but this is how you incorporate the goalie and give him feedback and make sure that, he's getting quality practice time too. It's not just, you have a 3-shot drill to warm everybody up and the goalie's getting inundated with 6 or 7 shots before he can even reset. We've now told coaches, you need to pull back and have your assistants kind of time the kids as they're going, not just let them just keep running, roughshod over the goaltenders. It's been a real great experience working with Steve and the rest of the USA Hockey and seeing how much kind of on a pedestal they're putting the goaltending position right now. I'm not trying to center us and make us more important than anybody else, but giving that, I guess, credence to the position. It's not just, oh, I have this star, two forward lines, or I've got the most defensive team in hockey. It's, I have a well-rounded team that's an offensive threat. They're solid defensively. They know where to go. They know how to outlet. And my goaltender is well-trained, and we take care of him in practice. So, it's the how far we've come since I took my first bronze course is leaps and bounds, because again, like I said, uh, earlier, the goaltending coaching class was originally, like, when I took it, it was more kind of geared towards goalie coaches or parents that were getting involved with teams that wanted to be goalie coaches and help out. And now we want everybody to take the course. I want head coaches there, assistant coaches there, men and women that are involved in this game that are teaching these kids. Um, and I want them to be able to, if they're by themselves, still be able to help their goalies out and still be able to, disseminate good information for them.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've seen, from this Our Kids Play Goalie section is so many goaltenders that start getting involved in teaching because of the need of the non-goaltending coach saying, well, yeah, it's that's how I grew up. You just get in the net, make saves. Like I used to joke around, with my college kids, like, we have 3 goalies. My job is to find you 3. Your job is to be the best goalie. Like, I'm not worried about, figure out who's going to win, the battle of the 3. I gave you 3 people. Let's see who the best one is, instead of teaching and moving those players up. And I think what we've seen now at the youth level, and you made a great point, Brian, was that piece of knowing that we have to do more for our kids in the net, because I'm the coach of all the kids. I'm not just the coach of the forwards, or I'm not just the defensive coach. I'm coaching all of the kids. Now, if we're fortunate enough to have practices at the youth level where we have a defensive coach, an offensive coach, a goalie coach, a manager, great. But even in that case, right, you watch at every single level of the game, the goalies have to be thought of when you're building out your practice plan, because you need to make sure that they're getting, we joke around in these episodes all the time that if you want players to stop pucks, track pucks, freeze pucks, and stop a play, well, you have to allow that to happen every day in practice. If you're just asking players to stop a puck and then run and jump to the other side of the net, those reps are actually very negative reps. And I think what the bronze, clinic has done, and all these goalie clinics has done, is open the eyes for coaches to understand maybe not the position so much, but the importance of timing, the importance of quality, the importance of mimicking the game so that we can prepare our goalies. Like when I talk to offensive coaches, right, and they're talking about my kids don't know how to score, like they don't know how to get rebounds. Like, well, every drill you've done for 20 weeks is shoot and loop, shoot and loop, shoot and loop. So if all your players in practice is shoot the puck and then go to the corner and go to the line, that's what your game looks like. And I think what USA Hockey's done, and in the courses that guys like you are running, what that's done is open the eyes to coaches to say, wow, if I want my goalies to be quality players in the net, and I got to give them quality reps. And that's, I think, one of the, like, I don't need to know the logistics of, different plays from a goaltender as a main coach. I just need to know how to put that player in the position to then, to your point, be able to take all these learning points that they're getting from either a goalie coach, clinics, camps, YouTube, Instagram, and allow them then to figure out, how can they be the best goalie, as long as I give them the chance to stop pucks in a game like scenario.
Yep. The other thing I'll say more.
Go ahead, Brian. I apologize.
No. I'm just agreeing, Mike. It's refreshing to hear coaches talk like that, and it's becoming more commonplace. There are still a few old-fashioned holdouts in the coaching world where it's, I don't need to coach my goalie. One of my assistants can do that. I just design the plays, and I need them to make stops. And in all honesty, eventually those dinosaurs will go to the wayside, and we'll have completed the turnaround into a newer age of youth hockey where, everybody gets development equally. And I get it. Not everybody, and Mike, you're absolutely right. Not everybody is going to be an in-depth goalie coach and be able to counsel their goalie, hey man, you should have made a power slide across the crease and, come back to your post, versus, hey, it's a little observation. Hey, our defensemen are boxing that guy out. I need you to come out a little bit further from the crease. I'm not going to tell you what kind of save to make, but you're playing a little conservative. How about, helping our defenseman out and putting that in the corner, or freezing the play for us? This is what I want you to do in this instance. If we're really dying on the penalty kill, I need you to make a freeze somewhere. But just having that little bit of understanding and then being able to curtail your practices in those real game situations is critical.
Yeah, I can talk to that. One of my biggest takeaways from the course, Brian, was it doesn't take much on a coach's end to kind of have a clue. I wanted to leave that course with a clue, right? So again, never really played goalie in my life. I've gone to goaltending clinics when I was a younger player because I wanted to learn how to score, believe it or not. So I've seen goalie camps, but I would never say like I know the position. In fact, jokingly, someone asked me, someone knew I took that course, and they came up to me and said, "Are you a goaltending coach?" And I was like, "No." And like, "But no, but you are." I was like, "Okay, yes, I took a course, but I'm still not comfortable being called that." You know what I mean? I just wanted to have a clue. And the biggest takeaway from the course was, especially from that on ice session, one, Mike, to your credit, not just how easy the quick change gear was, which is a no-brainer if you're in a youth organization at that level, but the thought process of, okay, look, you have an hour, 15 minutes. Goalie needs 15 minutes to do this type of stuff. You should take them aside for 15 minutes if possible. Let them do this training on the drills. Make sure that there's an understanding of the position of how it's worked into your drills. And like also little things like you said, Mike, earlier, Brian, you said this too, at the clinic, not shot, like let them reset, let them figure things out, let them understand that. And then other methodologies of just adding things to the drill. Like, again, all the goalies listening are going to roll their eyes, but like, this is something I didn't know of, just like having a phantom shot by putting a stick down and making the goalie know, okay, there's pretend a shot's coming from here and then get up, and how valuable that little element is to making a goalie more comfortable. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is this, and as a coach for 20 years, I've never understood anybody, not just coaches, that does not take time to focus on that position. Maybe it's because I grew up in Philadelphia and we had a goaltending carousel for my entire life in the NHL, or maybe it's just because having played, I just have a clue of how important that position is. But if you're not taking a moment to have a clue about that position as a coach, you're really letting the whole team down, in my opinion, right? It is the most important position on the ice by far, right? The only player who plays the whole game, typically, right? And it's like, it does not take much to incorporate some thought into your drills, into your communication. We'll get into that in a few minutes, Brian, of how you can communicate with your goalies, and then just the work that they need to do, right? Like again, I think one of the things we talked about at that course was just, hey, if you have the means, give 15 minutes to that goalie and a coach to just work on some things. And and I've heard, I can hear coaches, well, my players need shots. Your goalie needs work. It's like they can shoot. You have shooter tutors. We have everything we need nowadays for a player to figure out how to shoot on the net. So that was my big takeaway. And I'm going to say it. I left this course having probably more than just a clue about the position. Other things too. I think, and this is where I think it's tough for you, Brian. I'd love your thoughts on this. I'm sitting in the room surrounded by goalies, and you have to go through the equipment, right? And it's like, look, I can see the goalies in the room like, well, okay, look, I know the equipment. But for me, obviously I know the equipment, but I didn't know it like you had taught it. I didn't know the importance of certain things. And slowly but surely, some of these goalies did start asking questions of, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? So it is so important from a coaching standpoint. If you have the ability to take this course, it's not long. It's not even half a day, right? It's great information. You'll have a clue. I thought it was engaging in terms of the conversations that we had, right? And I think it's also good that I was surrounded by goalies because I was listening to them on the ice too, right? I like listening to them. Like, well, if you do this and you do that, one of them came up to me on a drill, and I'll throw it back to you. It's like, what do you think the goalie's doing wrong in this drill? I was like, I don't know what the hell he's doing wrong. I'm trying to figure that out from you. And then they explained it to me. I was like, I never thought about that. So again, that was long-winded, but my point is, it's so important to have a clue as a coach It does not take much on our part as coaches to incorporate effective goaltending training into every single practice. Probably just should have started with that. It would have saved us all a lot.
And I sometimes come across as a little condescending as a goalie and as a goalie coach, but for head coaches that I've butted heads with, it makes me laugh sometimes how clueless some of the old school coaches can be. And even some of the newer coaches, like, you're not always going to have a guy that played high level hockey that's going to be coaching your kids. You're not always going to have somebody who's a professional coach. You're going to get a dad that's in there. Like, I play men's league. I'll coach the kids. I can be there every week. I can be there on the weekends. Um, it, it literally takes you an hour to go online and learn even a basic understanding of goaltending. If you've never touched a pair of pads in your life, if you've never watched a video, it takes zero effort to go onto YouTube and go down a rabbit hole for an hour.
Right.
There's so much information. I tell my kids that I coach this all the time. There's no reason why you shouldn't know every last bit of history and have a grasp of the understanding of how this position works by just going on your phone and ticking around on the internet. So it's nothing for a coach to go on and just kind of absorb some of that information. And admittedly, at the class, I told you guys, I'm the biggest goalie nerd that there is.
You really are.
I love equipment. I love like tips and tricks. I love drills. My phone is a buffet of goaltending everything, and I admittedly, sometimes my kid gets a little tired of it because like he's just exposed to it all the time. And he makes fun of me because I get so excited. We'll go to the hockey store and I'll see a new set of pads and I'll start, pulling it apart and looking at it. And I hear him I hear him rolls his eye and he goes, "All right, here goes Dad. I'm going to go somewhere else in the store, Dad. You have fun."
Well,
yeah, but I think in that same breath, right, that we have to be aware that if you're a goalie parent, you're coming into it assuming the head coach is a professional. Like, you're like, "Oh, this guy's coaching my team. He's the coach." I mean, so it behooves you as that coach, whether you're a goalie coach or not, to be the most knowledgeable coach you can be. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that you would just dismiss a very important position on your team and say, "Hey, listen, I like even me, like at the youth hockey level, I hate that when programs give like goalies like free goaltending or half goaltending price. Oh, you're a goaltender, you pay half. Well, you play more than my kid does. You play every damn game. You're every practice. But instead of saying I'm gonna charge you half of what it costs, actually you're gonna pay the full boat. But guess what we're doing? We have knowledgeable people that are going to work with your kid every day. So you don't have to go out and get the 16 hours of training. Now, can that enhance what you do? But you shouldn't feel as a goalie parent that every time you go to practice is just because you're on the team, but you have to go get supplemental, help. It doesn't make sense to me. So, again, if you're a pitcher, if you're a catcher, if you're a quarterback, I get it. You're going to get extra fine tuning advice from trainers. But on the day-to-day practice, you should get quality reps, the right reps, instruction, feedback, communication, all those kind of things have to be part of what you do. And if you're a head coach and you can go to a clinic like Lee did and say, "Listen, I'm knowledgeable about all the positions. Am I an expert at this? No, by no means, but I'm knowledgeable about all the positions."
Yeah,
and I think that's so important for people to understand.
Brian, we should note too, I should have said this at the start. We had people from all over. This was only like a 30-minute drive for me. And I was like, "Oh, okay." We had people from Florida in the room. We had people from England in the room. I mean, they came from everywhere for this course, which, I mean, the people from Florida, I was shocked. But that's how much it meant to them, and they were really engaged. I remember they're like, "We can get my money's worth out of this."
Yeah. We've historically, I mean, the Atlantic District is one of the only districts that does the in-person goaltending clinic or the goaltending coaching, the bronze level course, pretty much anymore. It's a lot of it is, like you said earlier in the show, is virtual now. A lot of everything is online, and while I feel that the virtual aspect has its merits and it reaches a wider base and you're able to touch, with a lot more coaches in that aspect. And it makes, the refereeing clinics, the every year coaching clinics a lot easier. Specialized courses and what we call the high performance modules, like goaltending. I feel like it should be an in-person thing. I
Mm.
feel like you get more in person because you're on the ice, you're running the drills, you're making the drills more complex for the upper level kids, you're simplifying them and boiling them down for the little kids that are just starting out. We had a guy last year come in from the Mayo Clinic. He works there. He's also a coach out in California. And he brought us t-shirts and it was really cool. We've had, Canadian coaches come down. They would happen to be in the United States anyway. So they, on their road trip, they stopped in, did the course. It really doesn't affect them because they're under Hockey Canada, but they were just looking for another kind of aspect or, seeing the game from another light. Yeah, we get a pretty good draw for that course, and it's always a lot of fun to see. That's why Alex always asks, like, who drove the farthest or who flew the farthest to get here
Yeah,
today?
I was out right away on that. I knew that. But here's the thing. I was gladly out. I was like, I didn't want to be traveling 3 or 4 hours. Um,
Yeah.
I do want to just quickly, because we've been teasing it the whole episode. Let's just quickly walk through the goaltending courses. There's bronze, there's silver, there's gold. And they don't happen every year, right? But I'm sure there's people listening right now that are getting interested. So, Brian, could you just walk us through just quickly, the roadmap of what these courses entail?
Sure. So what we prefer is that you get your level one first. Then you're in the system, and then what we used to do is we used to take the goaltending course and use that as your certification year and bump you up, kind of as your module. But now it's its own separate entity now because it's more like a supplemental kind of like, hey, we're more complex as a coach now. So you'll get your level one. And then once you get your level one, you complete all your requirements and everything, you can sign up for the high performance goaltending bronze. That's your initial kind of introduction. That's what we want everybody to take.
Mm-hmm.
We would love everybody to be a gold level goalie coach, but realistically, you start going down the rabbit hole of goaltending as you get to silver and gold. It's more curtailed to very high level coaches. So like college, junior, professional, and then specialized goalie coaching for silver and gold. So after you're done your bronze and you do your classroom and you're on ice, you'll get your badge and there it is.
I'm holding up
I
for
don't
those
even
of you
have one of
for
those.
those of you listening. I'm holding it up right now. It's a cool little badge. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, I appreciate that.
I'm jealous of you guys.
Yeah.
I don't even have one of those badges.
Oh, I'll make sure you get
Um,
one. Don't worry.
so after your bronze, you'll move up to silver. Silver has been kind of in flux over the last year and a half because we've been retooling
Mhm.
what's going to be included and how often we're going to offer that. And they're kind of offset now. So the silver will not be offered the same year as a gold. And once you complete your silver, they're a little bit more rare, but they're still usually we want them to be like once a year, maybe twice a year. And we'll offer them East Coast, West Coast, Central, kind of alternating. Boston, Philadelphia, California, or Los Angeles, Minnesota, Colorado. Big cities where we can get a big draw. And then your gold course is probably going to be the most rare. It's going to be like every other year. It's going to be offset with the level 5 coaching
Mhm.
symposium. So those will be few and far between. You really kind of got to look for those ones. But if somebody's really interested, they are more than welcome to contact me. Uh, in that same vein, for the what I promised you guys at your course will be coming out soon. So expect your mailbox to get inundated with some goalie stuff. I
I'm
finally got
ready.
the email list off of Alex. He was on vacation,
That's
so I'll be flooding you and the other coaches that were there's emails with about as much information as I can pack in
No,
there.
listen, it's a funny thing for me. Like I said, that when my son really chose the position, um, as a parent, and again, I always have to be careful as a parent. Like you said before, how much of a goalie nerd you are. I'm just a hockey nerd. So the way I saw this was like, oh wow, there's like a whole new thing of hockey I'm going to get to learn here that I don't know, and I love that. To the point I have to make sure that I have to be careful with him of how much, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't want to be like lame for him. I want him to enjoy it. But I will give a testament again that this bronze level course, a member of your coaching staff, if it can't be you, really should take this. You should want somebody on your staff that has a clue of what to do with goaltending, within your practices, within your games, within your office. I do want to say too, Mike, you made a great point before. One of the things I've been really impressed with my son's organization this year, which I wasn't expecting. Again, Brian, my son just made the jump from mite to squirt. So there's a little more organization this year. And as a goalie, not only do I feel like he's getting the proper instruction at practice from his coaches, but they've also brought in goaltending nights with professional goalie coaches once a week, really through the end of the year. And I was blown away by that. And Mike, we paid full price, right? But I feel like, wow, we're getting a lot out of this season, just from a positional standpoint as a goalie, that they went the extra mile. And I like it because I think organizations now are realizing they have to make themselves valuable, right? Or they're not going to get the intake of kids, because there's a lot of, fortunately and unfortunately, mostly unfortunately, kids switch organizations all the time. But if you create a valuable place for people to land, they're going to want to stay and they're going to want to work. And I was impressed by that. I wasn't expecting to see that. By the way, adversely, they're also offering power skating for the skaters. But Brian, when you look at my kid, and again, another thing I learned from the course was, I don't necessarily want him in the pads every single day, right? Is that, he's going to have really good instruction from a goaltending standpoint. He's going to be skating out, probably 25% of the time during the week. One game he skates out, one practice he skates out. And I look at it like, wow, what a really well-rounded year this is going to be for him from an educational standpoint. He's going to get the 360 view of the game. All right. Now he's still 9 and 10, so I still have to deal with that aspect of it. That's my charge as a parent. Right. But that's what I'd like to see more of that. Right. That, not being in the pads all the time, understanding other aspects of the game. I think it's also important, Brian, that non-goalies get in the pads. I think that was something we've talked about on the show, but a big takeaway is until you're in that net, you just don't understand. I don't know how else to say that. Right.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that sentiment. And it's great that he's skating out, and kids really shouldn't be specializing at the goaltending position until late peewees. It's in my opinion, they should still at some point during the season be skating out if possible. Now, listen, I understand the realism of the sport, and in peewees, that's not going to happen. You're going to have kids that are just like, I want to be the goalie. That's all I want to be. I had a kid at mites. That's all he wanted to do.
Right.
And dad fought me tooth and nail on it. But, the development model is, you want the kids switching out at the mite level. You want them quick changing out of that equipment so everybody gets a chance. Now, are you going to have kids that are, I don't want to play goaltender at all. I don't ever want to touch that position. Try it once. No. You don't like it, you never have to do it again. That was always my philosophy with the kids. If you do like it, let's rotate you in and out. Let's see how this goes. And then you start maybe getting into, all right, I'm going to play a little bit more and play a little bit more. But the fact that they're having him skate out, fantastic. That's right. I'm not the kind of coach that would say, that kid wants to be a goalie, put him in pads, never take him out. Because, that's what happened to me. And it's a crime to watch me skate out.
Yeah. By the way, he's not fighting it. Look, this kid's a goalie. He wants to be a goalie. But he wasn't fighting I get to go skate out every once in a while, because it was kind of presented to him that way. Like, yeah, you want to know everything. So he was very accepting of it as play, right? Oh, I'll get to do this. And I think that we run into traps sometimes when it's like, yeah, no, you need to be in the net because you're the goalie, and kids want to play. They just want to play, period. I'm not just talking hockey. So Mike, I see you want to say something. I keep talking over you. Sorry.
No. I know at the very least, if you're going to be a year-round, if you're going to be a goaltender, I think that's where, as a parent and a coach, you have to get that player out of the net and into another sport, and into a running sport, or an agility sport, or an endurance sport, like something that doesn't entail them being in pads. Because again, unfortunately, we don't see the repercussions of that 9-year-old until they're 19.
Right.
And 20, and then they're having like all kinds of mobility issues and flex issues, and there's all strain on different muscle groups. So I'm all for players playing out. And Brian, you're absolutely. Listen, I played goalie and player until Bantam, and because nobody else wanted to play goalie, I'm like, God, I love playing goalie. This is great. Like I was like good? No, but I said, I don't know, I like it. And I was like, somebody depended on me to be in the net, right? Because they didn't have anybody. But I think more importantly, it just gave. I don't like today's game. And you just talked about, when the new pads come out, right? The game's not allowing us to have a peewee kid say, hey, I'm going to get 2 sets of equipment and I'm going to play out and play in, and another kid's going to play goalie. Like so at the 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, I've done the junior ranger in the NHL program now for the last 5 or 6 years, and the quick change gear. We had 16 different kids playing net. Now, out of those 16 kids during the year, 6 took to it. Like they were like, oh my God, like I never want to play anything else. Like I love this. And that's great, and I think that's where we want to be. But, I think if you can't get a player to play, out as a skater, then at least help them become, getting something different athletically, because I think the benefits of it are great. Obviously, we know that, right? Tennis and golf and soccer and lacrosse. We know that that's like, if you just don't see that as plain as it is, you probably shouldn't be coaching youth sports. Like if you don't actually see that a multi-sport kid is just a better kid at the end of the journey, then you're just I don't know. You shouldn't be coaching kids. But if you're a parent that says my kid's a goalie, he loves goalie, that's great. You need to kind of, we say it all the time, Lee, right? When we're talking to everybody, my kid loves chocolate, but he can't have a chocolate cake every night. Like right. At some point you can be like, no, chocolate cakes for Friday night, or whatever. Like you can't just.
And there's other types of cake.
Yeah, and there's other. Yeah, and it's just like, at some point you have to be like, listen, we want a healthy balance for our players. And it sounds like, Brian, I think what the coaching education program has done too is just say, listen, we're USA Hockey and we're telling you not to play hockey. Like, like it's like other sports, like, no, you must do this, 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 and this. And USA Hockey has set the standard. I mean, there's not even a question about it, that they've set the standard of saying, no, we actually are promoting lacrosse. We're promoting baseball. We want you to play tennis. Now, is it a detriment to, rink owners and program directors? And maybe, but I want a long-term kid to be playing the sport down the road. The only way I'm going to do that is to allow balance in the way we teach. And I think that if nothing else, the bronze program does for non-goalie, and goalies, right, is to say, this is how you become a balanced player. And if you could do these other things outside the net and work on proprioception and work on balance and work on agility and work on, using both arms and using your brain, like all that kind of stuff, helps you down the road. And ultimately, isn't that the goal? Like if you ask these parents, like well, what's the goal? Well, my goal is I want my kid to be I want him to be in the NHL. I want him to be the best goalie in the world. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if that's really what your goal is, then you would follow this path, not that path. So right. I think if nothing else, the educational piece is allowing people to see it and hear the data. Now it's up to, you've alluded to it, right? It's up to the coaches that claim they're pros to to actually follow those guidelines.
I'm a huge proponent of hockey players moving away from hockey in the off season. Listen, camps in summertime are always going to be there. My son Brody participated in, I think, 3 different camps this summer. 4 or 5 days on the ice, but like historically, we've always tried to get him out. Soccer, lacrosse, baseball. Whatever sport we can get him away from the rink so that he's not burnt out. So that because that was my biggest thing as a kid, I would leave hockey because there wasn't this year-round hockey thing when I was a kid. It was like you got done playoffs in like February and March, and you had a little bit of tryouts, and then it was barren. There was like the rink shut down, they melted down, and it was, I might have played street hockey with my friends, but I was on a baseball diamond. I was playing basketball, I was playing soccer, and that left me hungry so that when pre-camp started, and I see it in my son too, when we take him away from hockey, he gets back into it, and it's almost like the flywheel lets loose and he's ready to go again.
That's what's so ironic about high performing athletes that have come through, right? Like guys like you and Lee. And the ironic thing is everything that got them to be a high performer is what you are not doing with your kid. Like I look at these guys go, every athlete will say that. Oh, I played baseball, I played lacrosse, I did this. I never played hockey in the summer. But then all of us go, yeah, but oh my God, like my kid's going to miss out like everybody else's kid is doing it. I'm like, no, that's the reason you were a high performer. That's the reason you got through the gauntlet of this constant battle of trying to find, can you be a great player and then maintain passion. And I think that's where we can do such a great job is to manufacture that passion by taking it away.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just remembering like it's why people, go crazy on Netflix. Right. If you sit there and go, oh my God, every Wednesday night is my favorite show. And they're like dying because you take it away from them and they can't watch it. If you just showed the shows every night, they're like, oh, I don't need to wait. I think that's that piece that that drive for these kids. Like, no, you know what? I'm going to hold this back a little bit. I'm going to have you wait a little bit, and then we'll start seeing if
Well,
this is something
it's
you really
not
want.
just for the kids, Mike. Brian, you'll laugh at this. We did an episode at the end of the season about like, should my kid play spring hockey, basically, and I was the test subject, and we came to the decision that we're going to take a break in the spring, and I think not only was that really good for my kids, but it was really good for me and my wife. Like, because when you're in it every week, you kind of get in that routine, and until you break it, you don't realize, like, man, wow, I really needed a break. Right?
You go, holy crap, my lawn! I can actually do my lawn this spring. I
Oh,
mean,
there was so much.
This is I can't believe it.
That wasn't. I mean, I can go through the list of things I got to do, but it's just like, wow. And then summer's a little looser, right? We do like a summer league. There's no practices, just games. And actually, my son said he's in a goaltending camp now for the first time this summer. He's doing proper instruction with goaltending, and we're in mid-August. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, and if you've ever listened to us before, right? And this is the first time listening. I'm not against spring and summer hockey. I'm not even against camps and clinics. And I'm just saying there's a much better. What I'm against is on a Thursday in the summer, you get in a car and you travel 7 hours and play 16 games on a weekend and come home Sunday night and say, wow, that was a success. I'm like, of what? Like, what was that a success of? So again, if you do it once, that's great. But what I see, what we're going, and this is, listen, I see it in baseball, I see it in there. It's like every weekend of every day of every season, you're in this constant flux of youth sports, and at the end of the day, the players we see succeeding are succeeding anyway. Well, and then what we don't see is the carnage that we're leaving. And I think that's where it's great that the program that you're involved in, Brian, and educating not only the technical aspects of goaltending, but the discussion about what equipment to wear. What do you really need? Do you need do you need this high level stuff, or can you get away with this? Can you get away with equipment that's, can you use hand-me-down equipment? Is there anything wrong with, using different types of pads, or, do you need the top level of this when your kid is this? Like, that's all that piece of education. It allows, I would say the sane parent, like the parent that just wants their kid to enjoy sport, an opportunity to enjoy it. And again, the kids that will excel will excel. I'm a firm believer that if you're going to be that player, you're going to be that player. And
Mike, I want to add this, and Brian, I do want to throw it to you, but it's just the truth of any high level athlete, maybe collegiate to pro. I don't care what position they play. They will kick your ass at any sport you want to play them against, because they are athletes. They are great athletes.
Right.
They're not just great hockey players. They specialize in hockey, but there's not one NHL player that's not an amazing athlete. And you cannot create an amazing, well-rounded athlete if your kid only plays one position or one sport. It's just not possible. Sorry, Brian, I just had to say that. Go ahead.
I absolutely agree with you. That's a great point. I have played hockey with, I have played sports with those kind of athletes where no matter what you do, my best friend who never played anything more than high school soccer, all right, he's the best all around athlete I've ever met in my life, and the most competitive. Like, he's the kind of guy where he goes, how many points do we need to win? Like, that's his famous line. And then that's it. Game over. Like, doesn't matter what it is. Soccer, baseball, cornhole, hockey. Like, poker. He was the top guy.
Yeah.
Every sport we ever played, even now as adults, like as grown men, like, he's the guy that everybody tries to beat but can't, and he was one of those kind of athletes. Now his drive was to just get a job and start making money out of high school, so he stopped playing sports. But that's my best, like, me personally, that's my best example. But like, my son is a better athlete than I ever was. He's he's better competitively, mentally, he's better, and he's athletically gifted. I had to battle for every level that I gained in that sport, in baseball, in hockey. I was always the guy that outworked everybody. That's the only reason I made it in minor leagues. That's the only reason I made it onto a junior team. College was a kind of foregone conclusion because they always need goalies. But, I excelled because I outworked other guys. Like, when I was bouncing around the Federal League, it was, when I came to the team, they knew that the starting goalie was either screwing up or on his way out the door, because I was going to either push him to get back into shape or I was going to take his job. Right. But my son, on the other hand, and other athletes like him, they're just gifted. They're good at whatever they do. Like, he started lacrosse a couple years ago and instantly took to it. And there was an instant passion where he's staying an hour after practice is over and shooting, on a dark field. And all I have is the headlights on. He's just like, Dad, can I stay and shoot around? Yeah, sure. No problem. When he was with baseball, he wanted to go to the diamond and field, as a kid, like a little guy, T-ball, they would put him at the pitcher's position because they knew he would dive in front of the ball. So it would never get to the infield, and he would just throw the kids out at first. Like, he wasn't afraid to throw himself in front of the ball. You can't teach that kind of athleticism. That's just inherent to the kid, or to the athlete. You can only kind of cultivate that and mold it and encourage it, but you can't burn it out.
Right.
And that's one thing I was always afraid of when my kids started playing sports. And with any athlete that I coach, I don't want to see them burn out. If a kid has a true passion for the game, they're going to want to be there no matter what. But you also have to kind of almost counsel the parents, like, you can't be at the rink 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because the kid's never going to last. I always use the adage that, like, there are NHL players that make it to the NHL that didn't start playing hockey till freshman year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
If your kid from the age of 6 years old until they're 17 is in the rink 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, they're not going to make it. And if they do, they're part of a fraction of a percentage of human beings that were able to stick that out. But, like, to Mike's point, you start seeing the detrimental effects of that kind of specialization and overwork from doing that. You have to give the body a rest. Like, in the summer, I pull my kid away from sports at different times during the summer, but for weeks at a time. I don't want him to do anything other than just chill out, hang out with his friends, play video games, and just rest, because the season is such a grind.
Right.
And the training, he's on the ice 2 days a week and then 2 or 3 times every weekend. And God forbid he plays for his travel team and a high school team now. He's on the ice that much more, and if he wants to do it, I will let him do it. And he finishes the commitments that he starts. Sometimes we've gotten to the point where we're like, all right, we don't want to do this anymore because we started it and then it became not fun. So we're going to finish it out and then not go back.
Right.
We did it with soccer.
The key there, you said, is finish it out. I always like to point on that, because if you make a commitment, as you just said, you finish. You don't quit mid-season on your team, barring nothing, serious is going on.
Right.
You finish what you started, and then the next season you make that decision. I think that that's a really valuable lesson for everybody in every position in every sport. I don't think it's limited to hockey.
No, and Brian, I like in your point of that you're in hindsight, right? You're looking at it from the view of, like, I just have all the statistics in front of me. Like, it's gonna be very difficult for your kid not to burn out when you're 6 and 7, 8 years old, and you're at the rink every morning at 5 a.m. and you're dragging them there, and they love it, right? My kid loves it. Yeah, I get it, and I see that all the time. But I think, and the problem is all of us as parents, that 1%, I think our kid's the 1%. like everybody's kid is that kid, and said, oh no, I get it. Like, those parents over there, they probably shouldn't be doing this. This is way too much for their kid. Like, that kid's gonna burn out. Well, what about your kid? He's here at the same, like when I laugh when I walk into the rink and somebody's like, Jesus, I see you all the time. I go, yeah, I know, but I'm working. like you're here getting lessons every day. Like, I'm here with a different kid every day. You're here every day with your kid. And I've kind of taken I want to say a muted tone to that parent, because I almost feel just bad. Like, I'm just like, well, no, I get it. You think that your kid's going to be the next kid that's going to make it. That's fine. I mean, there's nothing you can do to combat that. But the statistics and history is not on your side. And a matter of fact, I think most of us would know that even if you took the kids out, they're still going to succeed. They're still going to be the best player. And just to have that balance in life, and Lee, we talk on all the different podcast episodes that we have. We talked to so many professional athletes that had such a horrible youth experience,
right?
And just fell up. And people are like, yeah, I know, but he made it to the NHL. Like, I know his dad was a tyrant, and I know he skated every day, and I know his parents made him shoot 500 pucks a day. I don't care, because he made it. I go, well, I don't know, talk to those athletes, see if they made
Well, how about this? Those athletes are spending a majority of their time now trying to make sure that doesn't happen to other kids. I mean, that should tell you something right there about how traumatized that they were by
Right,
this.
right, right, right,
All
right.
right.
There's so many different paths, but I think the biggest
Yeah.
thing is just saying, a well-rounded kid is a better kid for any coach, any college, any junior program. A player, again, unless you can score 90 goals, you don't, you don't need to be well-rounded. If you're going to score 90 goals, I don't care if you're an ass. Just keep scoring goals first. But I think at the end of the day, people, parents have to see that the more I can do for my kid to be a well-rounded individual and mentally tough and gritty and have an opportunity to be a great teammate, that is going to propel that person more later
Right.
on when it really matters than this like
You're
singular focus.
coaching a person here. Again, I keep reiterating this on the show. We're not just making hockey players as coaches. You're making people. And the better you can make a person, most likely they're going to become a better player as well. And Mike, you're bringing up a lot of good points. Look, a lot of people listen to this show, a lot of people, and we thank all of you, by the way. But Mike, the parent you're talking about who thinks their kid's making the chell, probably isn't listening. And, that is what it is. But I think a majority of parents out there are pretty good parents. And I think that's the reason the show's had success is because we just kind of gave a voice to people that, like, we get that 10% crazy parent stuff on our news feeds of people hitting refs on the head and running on the ice. Truth is, most hockey parents aren't like that. They want to know what's best. And
no. 95% of the great parents, and that's why you do this every day, right, Brian? I mean, you're dealing with how many goalies every year that you personally mentor, right? And you're like, okay, well, out of 100 the kids I work with, 96 of the parents are great. It's those couple that drive us all crazy and drive you to Monday morning podcasting, really.
This is his therapy. Brian, I want to ask this question too. I got just a couple and we'll let you get to bed for those of you listening, but Brian did a full night shift before doing this episode. But I always like to talk about the mental side of the game. And I know that mentality and mental strength, mental fitness coaching has become part of hockey as a whole, but specifically goaltenders really need this. It is a high stress position all the time, no matter when you start it. So I'm just curious on your thoughts about, how we can better incorporate mental fitness training for goaltenders, how important it is, and what we need to do now as coaches to make sure that's part of our regime.
It's the mental side of the game. Thank God has had so much light shed on it in the last 15 years. I think there's like a 550% uptick in how many programs are now incorporating that on both their coaches centering in on that, or some of the higher level teams bringing in mental coaches, whether it's having a therapist there or just a sports centric to help with the mental side of the game. In goaltending, I wish I could say it was just a robotic equation and it's just leave the goal behind and start anew, because like that's one of the I will admittedly throw myself on the on the cross and say I was that lunatic parent when my kid first started playing goaltender, because I had no idea how to do that. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to yell, and I didn't know that you weren't supposed to scream at your kid because you have a higher knowledge of the game and they should know because you've been talking to and they've been exposed to it their entire life. That's not how it works. Goaltending is extremely individual. You're going to have some kids that work so hard at the mental side of the game. And I mean, like, one of the greatest comparisons I ever saw to the mental side of the game was Mike Richter versus Marty Brodeur. And Mike Richter was very concentrated and very serious, and he didn't want to talk to anybody during games or before games. And he was kind of a lunatic in practices and pregame. He didn't want to deal with anybody. He didn't want to talk to nobody. Whereas Marty Brodeur is doing interviews and he's laughing and he's very jovial and very relaxed and calm. And you just see that dichotomy between like goaltenders. You're going to have some kids that just the mental side of the game comes very easy to them. Having goldfish moments is what I call it. Ted Lasso kind of pioneered that. He made it very popular. But I kind of used that analogy early on when I started coaching, saying you got to be like a goldfish, man. You got to have a goldfish memory. It's only 10 seconds. You let up a goal. Goalies need a reset program. when they let up a goal. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out like ritual where, they're grabbing a voodoo doll and all this other, stuff. It can be as simple as Carter Hart. Carter Hart's reset when he lets up a goal or a play doesn't go very well is he grabs his water bottle, him and Braden Holtby. They grab their water bottle, they throw water, they shoot water up in the air, they catch one droplet with their eye, and they watch it all the way to the ice. And that's as long as they have to worry about it. And as soon as it hits the ice, that thought is gone. That goal didn't happen. It's behind them. My son, he developed his own. It's kind of like he gets up, he gets into position, he gets set, he kind of jiggles his feet a little bit, and he smacks his stick down onto the ice in a ready position. And that's when I know his mind's clear. I told him it's not my reset, it's yours. You have to come up with your own kind of mental side of the game. Pre-game prep is huge. Having a system, you'll see every NHL player, every AHL player, every high-level athlete has their own kind of ritual pregame that gets theirs, because as a goaltender, you can't go in frazzled. You can't go in with your mind going a million miles a minute, and that's not to downplay the advantage some kids have with ADHD, where they can pay attention to everything on the ice at once versus honing in and focusing on one spot. It's just, if your brain's somewhere else, you're not going to perform well. If there's something going on at home, your grades aren't going where they should be, you're fighting with your brother or sister, or there's some other things going on, or maybe you and your goalie partner aren't getting along. You're not in sync, or your personalities clash, or you're fighting with somebody on the team, or the coach has been really beating on you in practice, like really hammering you. It doesn't make for solid goaltending foundation, because that's where everything starts, is the mental side of the game. When you wake up in the morning, you got to work hard to get yourself out of a funk. If you wake up ready to go, you're ready to go. And if you can keep that train going on the same track, you're going to be successful on the ice. It's when you start derailing and going, off on tangents because this was distracting, or this didn't go right, or there's been goalies that have had wild, my partner, when I played in Danbury, like, he had to have a cup of black coffee before the game at lunch, and like, he had to eat a half a bowl of pasta, and then he had to put his stuff on left to right. And if it didn't happen that way, you never saw a melt. Like, I've seen meltdowns, like, wow. But being able to have that mental toughness where, like, you come in, it's halfway through the season. Okay, I'm going to walk in an hour early. I'm going to get my hand-eye coordination going. I'm going to go out and warm up with my team. I'm going to come back in, and maybe the kid talks. Maybe he jokes around, gets himself dressed, gets himself ready. Boom, he's ready to go for the game. He's nice and relaxed. He's moving around. There's other kids. I don't want to talk to nobody. I got my headphones on. I'm getting concentrated. I'm going to get my gear on. And when the coach comes in to talk to us, I pull them off. I'm ready to go for the game. You know what I mean? It's it doesn't always have to be that, that psychotic, like, we got to punch Jerry in the jock strap before the game because that worked and he got a shutout 2 weeks ago because of it. It's so important, and not just with goaltending, with all aspects of the game now. Forwards, defensemen, they all have different aspects of that mental game where these coaches are coming in and they're trying to help them break through slumps. They're trying to keep them on hot streaks. It's leaps and bounds what it was years ago when I was playing, and it's only benefiting the players now. And coaches kind of dipping their toes into that so that they can keep their kids on that right track, that mainline track towards, winning and developing and becoming better hockey players and more well-rounded athletes. And student athletes is my most important trigger word, is because they are student athletes. That's one small piece to being a great coach and helping these kids develop in a major way that's going to benefit them for the rest of their life, because those well-rounded athletes go on to be well-rounded coworkers and well-rounded bosses and just as people. So I kind of got off on a tangent there, because it's like I'm trying to
great
touch on how the mental side of the game is developed, and it's grown so in a good way for hockey and other sports. But for goaltending, it's just, you have to have your own system. It can't be cookie cuttered from somebody else. If the kid likes the thing that Braden Holtby and Carter Hart does, or, if you, from an older generation, of getting the Bacchus pregame rituals, or, Marc-Andre Fleury just kind of fooling around. I could go on forever. But, they have to develop their own system to keep their mental health in the game in a good place. It can't be somebody else's. The parents can't tell them what to do. The coaches can't, beat it into them. It's kind of, you have to help them cultivate their own little mental fortress that keeps them pretty much sane in the crazy grind of that hockey season.
It's a great point. I think also, you're alluding to it. You can't get inside someone else's head, even if it's your own son or daughter. Like they are in their head. They have to figure this out. You can give them tools, or Brian, something I remember you saying from the course, not just with mental stuff, but also just the physical movement of a goaltender. You can borrow from a goalie, but if a goalie, and again, we can equate this mentally in a second. If a goalie's 6'5" and you're 5'9", you borrow what you need, but you're not 6'5". You have to find a style that works for you. And I think you can take that metaphor beyond just hockey, right? Like, you're in your body, you're in your mind. You got to find what works for you. So borrow what you can learn, and make your own path with it. I mean, that was a big takeaway for me from that course as well. I didn't say that earlier. It was just that there's no one way to play goalie. There's no three ways to play goalie. There's 6 million ways to play goalie. And we each have to kind of figure that out on our own, and then evolve over time.
I told you in the course that when I tell kids to pick a goalie that they like, it's not that I want them to emulate them carbon copy. It's right. I want you to pick things that you like about their game, and we can work on why that would strengthen your game and why you can't do that. Because, and I said this in the course, every single NHL goaltender is a freak of nature. There are some that are more, there are some that are a little bit closer to us normal human beings and mortals. But like guys like Jonathan Quick, I tell my kids all the time, you cannot be him. You cannot be Jonathan Quick. You cannot be Ben Bishop. You can't teach size. You can't teach that kind of flexibility. You can get flexible, but Jonathan Quick's body is built in such a way, and he has no hip impingement whatsoever. But again, the long-term effects of him playing that style were detrimental to his career towards the end. He's had hip surgeries, and it's hurting him in the long run. He's not as fast as he used to be into that split, just because. But when I watch these kids try and do that straddle split as a part of their game, and like, they make that save, I'm like, what now? You're done. You have nothing left. You've sold your best save. That should be like a one-timer save or a breakaway save. You've now spent that save on a rudimentary shot that you kicked out to the slot, and they're going to bury over top of you. So yes, to your point, take what you can and learn that you can't mimic certain things about those goalies. Ben Bishop's 6'7" on skates, or however tall that monstrous human being. You can't teach that. That's an inherent gift of genetics that he uses to his advantage. You can't make a kid that big. You can see a small kid play that big. It appears to play that big because he uses his angles, his depth, and everything correctly. But that inside on the goal line being that big, that's a gift. That Ben Bishop uses. That's not going to happen for a kid that's 5'5". Right. So that's an absolute. I'm so glad you took that away from the course, because I try and teach.
I took so much. Look, another thing. I believe it was you. Were you the one who told me about the hands awake thing? Was that you? Yeah. So for those of you listening,
not back here,
right?
Unless you're in tight.
My like most young goaltenders, my son was kind of resting his glove on his leg a little bit. And look, again, just to show you how impactful this was. One, you had mentioned that's a normal place for your hands to be. It's a comfortable place for your hands to be. And then, Brian instructed us, like, I was telling my son, like, no, you want to have your glove up, and like, I was telling him the right thing, but it wasn't computing. And so I had to find a different way to say it. And you said hands awake or hands active. I started telling him that. And it's funny, Brian, in the game, for those of you watching again, he's just hit to go right up. Like, that totally worked for him, right? So this is also why we need to share information. This is also why we need to take these courses and teach these courses and find different things that work for each other. We all have a kid at one point that's just not going to, you said this before, it doesn't matter how much you know. They're not going to listen to you because your dad or your mom, and that's just the way it is sometimes.
My kid.
Yeah.
That's my kid.
Right.
I can't coach my kid because he
Right.
thinks that I yell because I'm loud. I'm
Your
a loud
dad.
coach.
Your
I'm
dad.
boisterous, but I'm dad.
Right.
And unless there's other kids out there to where he feels like he's in the mix, I
Right.
can't do one-on-one with him because he
Right.
thinks I'm yelling at him. So what I do is I tell other coaches, this is what you need to do, and then they go do it,
That's what
and
we
I
do.
focus on somebody else that's on the ice.
We tag team our kids at practice a lot, but I'll tell you, we all go through that. I go through that. In fact, it is so hard. All you listening know, it's so hard when you're knowledgeable to not try and help, because they can't comprehend how much you love them and that you want to help them yet. They will one day, hopefully. But I wanted to ask this last question here, Mike. If you have another one, please jump in at the end here. But I saw this in your bio that you're the president of the Camden County Warriors, which is a charitable hockey team of first responders. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that group a little bit. At minimum, just to get you a clip you can share with the guys and say, you see, I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job on the podcast. No, but tell us a little bit about that organization.
So I've been a firefighter and an EMT since 2006, and I'm full-time EMT, and I'm a volunteer in my town. Um, and I was contacted by a Delaware Port Authority cop that heard I was a goalie, and he's like, "Hey man, you're a firefighter, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, I'm trying to put this team together." This is back in 2013. And we got an initial group of guys together, and we were just playing Friday afternoon games against other public safety teams. State police, Atlantic City police and fire had a team. Just whenever we could get against, jump. And then it started to build. It was like, hey, why don't we try and raise money? This person got hurt, or unfortunately, he had a line of duty death. Let's try and raise some money for the family. And then it's over the last 10 years, it's grown. We went during COVID, we established a board, and we hit all our requirements to become an actual 501c3 charitable organization. We do fundraisers with the state police every year. We go to the Heroes Cup up in Massachusetts and compete against other police and fire teams, first responders, military from all over North America. Um, and our first iteration of the board, I was elected president. I was reelected. I've since stepped down, and my vice president took over. Still involved. The guys are doing fantastic work in the community. We're raising funds for fallen first responder funds. We actually have a charity tournament this weekend called Checking for Charity in Voorhees at the Flyers Training Center that we compete in every year. We don't always do as well because the competition in that tournament is really high. They actually have a pro-am division in this tournament that we get some NHL players in. But it's the winning the hockey games is not the focus. It's raising money for the organizations that we try and benefit for that. And it's been an amazing experience with these guys, and they're family to me. These guys and we use that term a lot, brothers and sisters in the first responder community. But they really are. They've gotten me through tough times. We've been there for each other, and it's a great support group to have in our line of work, is to have that outlet and play this great game with other people that understand what you go through day in and day out at work, and be able to help other people. And it's an amazing opportunity for me to be, not only just the president of the organization when we first founded the 501c3 and been there since the very beginning of the team, but just see how much we've grown. We went from, I think, like 22 people to we're getting close to 75, almost 100 members.
Wow.
We're actually splitting teams up to talent level. We have our A division, which is our guys that all played like either minor leagues or juniors or whatever. And we go and play against the FDNY, the NYPD, Boston Fire, the FBI teams, and we try and always couple it with some kind of charitable donation. So yeah, we have a game coming up in October that benefits the McCausland Fund. He's a firefighter and a police officer in the area, and we lost McCausland a couple years ago, and his family started this fund for victims of line of duty suicide, and we just we want to raise as much money for as many people as we can help. And, sometimes we spread ourselves too thin, but we don't really mind. We like doing good for it's what we do. We want to help people. It's why we got into this line of work, and we all love it. And it's even more fun when you do it with friends. And that's exactly what these guys have become to me. They're all friends, and they're my family. My kid knows all of them. He's little Santora, and he sometimes jumps out there in net when we play, games just during warmups to kind of like be in with the guys. But it's a great organization, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. 10 years is we've brought a lot of change, and we've done a lot of good for a lot of people, and I hope that we get to keep doing that.
It just shows you, everybody listening to him, Brian, I applaud you on all your work with that and everybody involved, that the hockey community goes well beyond just youth sports, right? And that we talk a lot about the ROI of youth hockey on this show, and that it's not making a collegiate Division I team. It's the type of person that you become, and you're an upstanding person here. Not just your work in the game, your work outside the game, and what you do with first responders. So thank you for that, just as a parent and as a citizen, all the work that you do.
Yeah, I love this game. I fell in love with this game as a little kid, and I've participated in pretty much every aspect that you can participate in this game, and I love it. There's no point. There are times where I get tired. There's times where I kind of get burnt out and worn out, but when I step away for even a couple days, I find myself right back into it. I'm watching videos. I'm at the rink watching other people play. I'm checking in on students that I have. Hey, how's your summer going? I'm coaching on tournament teams, and I'm helping USA Hockey. And if I can create better players, and when I say better players, I mean better people from this game, and I can show them how great this game can be and how much you can fall in love with it, then I'm doing my part to return what I've gotten from this game. I've gotten so much from this game. I could never repay the sport enough, but I've done my part to try. And, whether it's officiating games or participating with sled hockey or special needs hockey or, first responder, military vets, whatever I can do to give time back, it's given me so much, and I can never repay the sport for what I've gotten from it. So if I'll keep doing it. And like I've told people before, when the day comes that I can't carry my bag in, I won't play anymore, but I won't leave the sport.
Brian, let me tell you something, man. You're doing it. And again, I'm a big believer. You guys send the elevator back down, and you're sending it down for a lot of people. And that's really, at the end of the day, what makes the game so great, right? It's always the people you do it with. I understand the sentiments of that. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. I got that feeling from you from the second you started speaking when we were at that course. So Mike, do you have anything else? I didn't want to not touch on you one more time.
No, we're good. I mean, it's a great conversation. I think, having the opportunity to hear more about the coaching program and the goalie side of it, and just, hearing different perspectives from a player, ex-player, current player, actually, right? And, a father, a coach, the developer. I think
with a sick handlebar mustache, by the way, for those of you who listen. I do want to bring some light to that.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and again, obviously, usahockey.com, if you're interested in learning more about these goaltending courses. If you're a coach, you find them in the same place you find all of the courses. I'm saying, as someone who took it, highly, highly recommend it. All right. If you're a coach and you're serious about being a coach, whether you are a dad or a mom stepping into the game for the first time because your kid's doing it, or you're a top level coach, I highly recommend you get involved in this program, because you have great instructors like Brian Santora and his friends that were there as well. So Brian, thanks so much for being here today. This was a fantastic episode.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome talking to you guys, and everybody, you are welcome to our courses. You are welcome to the bronze level courses. I invite everybody to come out and geek out with me at this course, because you can attest to this, Lee. I ran off a couple times. It's just me nerding
I enjoyed
out
those
about
times.
goaltending.
I had fun when you were off. Yeah,
it's my favorite thing. So if anybody, parents, coaches, just take the course. It's not going to do anything but benefit you.
Yeah, totally agree. So that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Goalie. If you want to hear more of the goaltending episodes, you can obviously go to ourkidsplayhockey.com. There's a little search bar. You can search for them. But if you just search Our Kids Play Goalie on any podcasting network, you'll find all of the episodes. For Brian Santora, Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. You've listened to Our Kids Play Goalie. We'll see you in the next episode. Have a great week, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.